really open the space that we're all here to share our experiences. So maybe this matches you, maybe it doesn't matches you. I invite you to open up possibilities and just feel into what we're going to share with you. And I felt really called to bring together three amazing people that I know for many, many years and worked with as well, that we worked together for many years over the years, and our own versions of the vanishing twin, being a survivor, and how that affected us personally in our lives, our work, and guided us to this work actually, and all the benefit, like this amazing gifts with having a twin in the system. And then also there's also some issues in our lives, our blockages that come up that we need to resolve. So yeah, I'm Damien Wynne. I just wanted to talk a little bit about how the systems work, my experience with twins, and then share each one of us, as we'll all have different facets and different experiences to share with each other. So we've got Manuela, Cecile, and Lucas who's going to share their experiences. So that's me. So Manuela, really nice to have you here. Thank you for being part of this experience, this conversation.
Thank you so much. Yes, first I want to share when the twin topics was open for me, I felt a big resistance. I think 10 years ago, and I thought everything. I looked at so many parts in my life and in my soul, and twin. I was in this moment. I thought, no, no, please not twins. Yes, and then I started my system to be in contact with all these informations, and then I understood many years ago, many years later, that that was one of the biggest shifts in this work I ever had. And yes, and I want to share some very private things about this, what how it influenced me, and maybe I've got a bigger sister. She is Sibylle, and this sister is very strong and very tough, and she's want to work as a social worker, and she want to say what is how it is going in this family, and I was growing up in a family who where it was very chaotic also for me to find my part in this family. And so I very often was in entanglement with this Sibylle, and then she say, okay, this is the next step, this is the next step, and this is the next step. And I share this because when it was conscious for me that this is a part, I thought this is a part of me. And then I felt that this energy is so much harder than my energy, and it doesn't it is not in a good match. And Lucas told me this very often when he was young. When I come back from my work, he said, "Now you are the social worker, and I want to have my mom back." Yes, so he was in a good feeling for this, and I want to share when it was conscious with all the twins. I had four. Then it was in learning of myself to to live all these parts which are the twins do for me. Yes, because Manuela, me, had big problems with my family. It was horrible often. Yes, and I was so emotionally, and when I go on this other twin place, I was silent. I can talk. I can manage this system. Yes, and then I understood that this is too much for me. This is not my part of what is good for me and for my soul. And so I stepped back from this place of the twin, and then I must learn to do all the things by my own. Yes, to be say stop. or but with my energy and not with this bigger energy of my twin. Yeah. And these it was like an Sortierprozess. It was like an, yeah, this is here and this is here and this is also not for me. This is not good for me. This is not in my frequency. And then I make this, and I learned to go the first steps, which I do on the twin places when I go there and do this. Yes, and that was it was a journey like a child who make the first steps. Yes, because I'm so often was so who now I have to, yeah, now I must talk to this person, and always Sibylle was there, and now I don't want this anymore. Yes, because I must learn it on my own. So, and yes, and this is the first I want to share, I think, in this process. And what I also want to share is that it was a wonderful heart feeling to invite all these twins, because it was like a whole system. Yes, I understood. Wow, this is silent. They are all there. Yes. And then began the journey because so many things influenced me. Maybe energies of the twins who want to have this sexual feelings or Erfahrungen, yes, with other people. And then I often was so confused, because I thought, what is this? Yeah, but is this me? Is this really me? And this sentence was since many years, every month, I think, it's what is me? What is me? What is me? I can feel this. Yes. And that's on me. No, it's too much. And so when I start this process, then it becomes lighter and clearer, and I'm become more cozy. Yes, this coziness comes back, and also the strength. But yes, many frequencies. Yes, and for me, it was the biggest shift. And I booked a session some days ago, and I was so confused. Yes, because uh, so many energies comes up, and then I booked the session with Damien, and everything was clearing, because I invited the twins on the places, and then all the chaotic things are gone. And I thought, this is so crazy. This is so crazy how it influenced my life, because on many parts, when the twins comes in, I would say, no, I don't want to go this way, or I don't make this business, or I cannot be as in a theater or something else. And then with the work, it, I can feel the light, and I can feel my soul part, and then I can go the next steps. Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful,
Yeah.
Manuel. Thank you for sharing
Yeah.
your experience and your wisdom and yeah. And interesting, I was going to go to Cecile, but it's okay if we go straight to Lucas, because Lucas is actually your son. And
Yes.
it's so beautiful to have mother and son in the
Yeah.
system, just to share a different entanglement or confusion. Or yeah, Lucas, we thank you for your part of this. And it's so beautiful to have you here as the son and mom. This is really, wow, a huge treasure for all of us that we hear, you know, the full version of the story. Lucas, thank
Yeah, sure, sure. So, my name is Lucas, the son of Manuela, and yeah, so how do I start? So maybe I start with the first webinar that you've done, Damien. So
you.
I remember I was doing it with my mom actually, and we were actually spacing out. So we were falling asleep and we didn't know anything that was said. And then we repeated it and then we fell asleep again. And it was such a strong, like, we don't know what was going on. We didn't understand any of it. And then slowly by repeating it, we kind of got, okay, there might be something. And so it was almost like, I don't know, being a detective and you see, I don't know, you see a certain thing on the wall and you question it like, oh, what is this? There's maybe something behind the wall, you know? And and yeah, it's a very, very, very intimate thing to do. I also understand why people maybe not be willing to share or hide away from it because it's actually a huge trauma. And what I want to bring in is maybe the physical part. So you can also do your own research on vanishing twin. You can even see pictures on Google what exactly is happening in the room. And so I remember I was going to a hospital, which is also a museum, and there's actually like a physical vessel of the vanishing twin syndrome there. I saw it, and it was very, very powerful. I was like, oh, okay. So what it basically means is that you are basically forced to kind of consume dead cells to be in a dead environment by yourself, you know, and you don't even want to absorb even cells from people who from deadness from twins who are leaving you, you know. So you are basically forced for 9 months in that system. So and that is your imprint, you know, that is kind of the chip in the computer that you're programmed to do so. And it's interesting. I basically felt, and I was like, okay, this is basically the twin stuff because also I've done so many webinars with Damien and also meditating and practicing, and it's almost like you don't get results, you know. You're always like, like, okay, there's still something, or it doesn't go deeper, you know. You're almost there to solve the puzzle, but you can't in a way. So, yeah, and and you feel, you know, you feel this the physical aspect of it in your system, and you feel the more you develop and the more you stay with it, and you don't, you know, run away, and you kind of focus in on it, it becomes clearer and clearer, and it unravels itself, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh my goodness, this addiction I've had for I don't know how many years it wasn't actually mine, and it's gone. It's so crazy, you know. It's almost like mind blowing how the things work, and yeah, it's crazy because you also attract different people. So that's maybe something that I think is also very powerful. It's almost like you're dating, but you don't find your person, or it's always strange. You have strange entanglements, and it doesn't quite work out. But if it does, it, you know, separates, or someone gets left, and then you're just confused and left again. So, you know, that's also what you've said in previous webinars, that many people, they're looking for the one, you know, but it's not the one you're looking for your twin. And it's crazy because it is such a strong bond, you know. You're basically in the same room, you know. You're experiencing the room process together, you know. It's such a physical thing. It's yeah, it's like, I don't know, it's like you're sharing a world with one another, you know. So you're in this process together, and then once you're on the outside world, of course you will feel lost. You don't know where you are. You're grieving and stuff. And it's also so funny in this world, you know. I don't know, it was also a couple of years ago I've heard this term. It's also people calling each other their twin, you know, when they like someone a lot, you know. Then it's like, oh yeah, this is my twin, this is my twin flame. You hear it in music, you hear it in rap music, it's basically everywhere. And it's so funny how the system is basically reflecting what's going on, you know, in different parts. But yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Lucas. I relate to everything you said. And Manuel,
Yeah.
Cecile, so nice to connect with you again. Thank you for being here, Cecile.
Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, it's so interesting because I'm listening to you, and especially the first contact or hearing the first time about a vanishing twin is so interesting. For me, it was, wow, what an interesting topic. Almost unfortunately, I don't have a twin. So, and I know it was in the same session that I was like, oh my God, I think I have a twin. And yeah, I can feel it very physically. I found it interesting what Lucas told about the consuming part of the twin and also being so close. So when my twins are active, and I can feel it right now in this moment, for example, I feel it very much in my body. At the moment I have like a heat here and like some almost a feeling of being pushed a little bit. And I could now think or have the impression, wow, that's just my temper. And sometimes, and that is the tricky part, my own temper, is temper the right word? I think so, isn't it? It's like a character trait or something, yeah? So it's very close to a twin. But what I feel is when it's close or very similar to a twin, it's getting enhanced and it's still not me. It's something I had to figure out. It's like the little bit too much. So at the moment, I feel like I have three twins, and I feel I have an older brother, and he's very he can be very impulsive and very strong. And I have a sister. She's younger, and she's like more like often a bit whiny or like in a victim state. And I have a very shy younger brother. I don't always feel him, but I know he's there. And what is about for me the twins is really like, as also Manuela said, like finding out who is me, who is the twin, and not being carried away by one twin and like forgetting about what do I want. And it's a very, for me also, embodiment work, because when I'm not in my body or less and less, the twins really are jumping in. And often when I clear that, I feel like, oh, I'm coming back to myself. And it can feel heavy in the first moment because it's back to me, back to my body. And then, but it's so important. So I found this like grounding in myself so important. And as I said, things get enhanced. That is so interesting. So I was just like, getting today what session is the first that comes up with a twin. And I remember one of many great sessions with twins with you was my parents are separated. So of course I have a grievance because I didn't live with my father. He went away or my mother went away with me when I was 2.5. And of course, there was sadness, but I always wondered, why is my separation sadness so deep? It's really like someone is dying. So when this is triggered by a partner or someone, I really like there's no end in grieving. There's such, I can't, I don't have words. So it's more than an inner child part. It's definitely, and then you in one session, you told me, look, your father and you were on twin places. You were closer. It wasn't only a father-daughter love, it was really a twin love. So it was like melting and being one, and such an endless love. And if this person then disappears from your life, it's like death, as the twin has died, obviously. And this made so much sense because, of course, it is still triggered. But now when I feel like completely carried away by huge emotions, this is so helpful. I just know that it is more than my personal system, and that helps tremendously. So and it's interesting. I always have to be reminded of it. Not always. I think about twins, and then I know when it's really a huge topic, someone, mostly you or Manuela, someone who is working with twins is reminding you, did you check your twins? And then oh yeah, gosh, it was like like a huge thing. And that's mostly the part. So I try to feel it in my body when it's active, and that not to be carried away, not to push it away. I learned, because sometimes I want to push it away because it's not my energy, and I felt like it's like with living people, you can set boundaries and you have to set boundaries, but you can't always completely push. You have to like connect before, and then see, okay, what is a good way to work with this twin. It's also different with the characters. So, and I have to admit, I admire it if someone can work with others directly with twins, because this is really huge to talk to people about twins. So when I work with someone and I have the impression it's a twin, I'm very, very careful. This is probably still because it's in my system, like being careful with this. So I often just say something like, maybe could you open for the possibility that there's a twin? And I talk a little bit, but I never say I'm sure there's a twin. I can't be sure actually, because I think I can't be sure by with someone else, but often I feel like there's an energy I can't, yeah, it's not, I can't work directly with a person. And that's usually like twins. So yeah, because you asked before us about the working with twins. So I think it's very related to how I work with my twin, but I'm really, really, really careful to say it to someone. And yeah. And sometimes also, yeah, I think it's also parts, sometimes not so easy to distinguish between is it an inner child or is it a twin? But I think the pull is stronger from the twins. That's my sign always. It's stronger. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, thank you. Feels so nice to have all our different experiences. Yeah, I'll go back to it's interesting how you were talking about the resistance, Manuel, and also Lucas, all of you. And what came up for me, it's interesting. I'm in Palermo now, and it reminded me of, I remember, I think I'm not great with the age memory on this. I think I was about 12 and I came with my parents to Sicily, and it was a difference near Catania, I think it was. And I had a feeling that my grandfather was going to die. And he died actually when we were away. And my parents couldn't get a flight for us all to come home. So my brother and I were left here and they went back home to bury my grandfather. So I missed the funeral, but they handed us over to a honeymoon couple. Actually, it was I felt so I still feel terrible for them on their honeymoon. But anyway, we ended up this honeymoon couple became our parents for a week and a half actually. And they took us on a day trip to Palermo. And what does Damien, of course, find in a postcard? I was like, I want to go to the catacombs. I want to go to the catacombs, in Palermo. Like, Jesus. So it makes this thing I don't know how to take off. It makes sense now because what I took home from my Sicily trip was not the souvenir was a postcard of two dead twins holding a brother and sister holding hands. And
Oh, wow.
I was like, I put it like an altar in my bedroom of like, I had such I don't know, some connection with these two toys. They did something to my system. And I was just, had this, I don't know, fixation on this postcard of this brother and sister holding, they have them in the catacombs here and they're holding hands. And I was like, this is it. This is like, I don't know, it was like you took me to Disney World or something, the way I reacted to it. I was so happy to show all my friends the two twins, I was showing everybody the postcard. It wasn't like, how was your holiday? It was like, look at these twins, I was so excited about it. And I never knew till like later why I had this crazy thing about these two dead twins when I meant, it was my holiday. Um, so then years later, when I started to do this work, I was so, many of you know me from back there with light grids. I was so alien-like out of my body completely. And so up here doing the work, but I wasn't getting physical results in my daily life. I was getting results for everybody else, but not for myself. So I was like, why is everyone getting the results and I'm not getting the results in my daily life or my own cells and my own body and my health? Because I was eating right, I was meditating, I was doing everything right. And a very strict diet. I'm always been very conscious about my diet. I know that's me as a child. I was always conscious about, eating the right thing. So I was like, why is my body at that moment not responding to everything good I'm taking? So then I went on this prenatal. I got a birthday present from Esther Norman. Thank you, Esther. And it was a friend of hers who was doing a prenatal weekend with me. It was like a single session. And I remember she brought me back to the womb. And when I was in there, I felt like I always slept on my side. And I felt like, there's something beside me. There's somebody else here with me. And that was the beginning of it. And I only saw one twin. So I have an older sister and younger brother. And I found the younger brother first. And it was amazing when I felt him beside me because I always had this doom in my system as a child. It was like the nuclear bomb's going to go off, there's radiation. I know Chernobyl affected me and psychologically. It was like always this doomsday thing in my system. And a heaviness and a depression and a big guilt in my system. And if you gave me, an apple, I remember it. I'd immediately pass it to my friend. I would never take a bite. Nothing for me, always giving something to somebody else, everything to everybody else, nothing for Damien. So this was very strong. So I remember then when I found out I had a brother, I felt like something filled up in my heart. It was very interesting, the sensation. I always felt like next relationship, there's something missing, there's something missing, there's something missing. It's like the next one, the one, I'll find the one, I'll find the one, jumping in our relationships all the time. And having very deep, intense relationships, like very fast. Like I had really like amazingly deep, like first relation. Every relationship was really deep and it's like a marriage each time. Like it was so intense. And they were all from different parts of the world and different qualities. And I was like, boom, boom. And then the system rejects and the system shuts. And then the next one comes in. So what I found when I did this experience was that there was a void, an emptiness in my heart that couldn't be filled by a relationship or a partner, but suddenly got filled by my brother. And I remember sleeping that evening because I always slept with a pillow, holding a pillow. And I remember that evening I was like astonished. I woke up the next day and I was sleeping on my back and I felt full and I felt complete. Something just significantly changed in my, not consciously, it was just something energetically in my system. I felt very stable. I felt my nervous system relaxed and I felt complete. And then that was the beginning of the twin work that I start doing twin work, which you're all talking about. And me teaching twin work, and I immediately had this thing, okay, I'm going to work with them and I'll do it in one session or one webinar and that's it, done. I had this feeling it's done, it's done. And I wanted to do it fast. Like I was like, just get it over so I can get on with my life. He's out of my system, done. And that was the energy I had in the webinar as well. As oh, finally I did the webinar, it's done. I can start living my life, it's done. And it was like the system says, no, there's another webinar. It's like, oh my God, not another twin webinar. And then every session was twins. I was like, I can't handle any more twin sessions. It's enough. Stop, stop, stop. But the reason it was coming up was because for 2 years, I didn't know I had a sister. And that was the reason I kept getting more people for sessions on twins, twins, twins. And that's why I kept getting more information on the webinars as well. But it was very interesting. I would say if you find a twin, never rush it because there's so many gifts. And like what Lucas was saying, it's like a detective. It was very important for me to find where my brother was in my life and where he influenced me. My brother, younger brother, is more like a mechanic. And it's interesting, my first career, the business that I set up with my brother, is something Damien had no interest in, had zero interest in, didn't even want it. And I set up this like refrigeration, air conditioning, a hotel business thing, which is still going. My brother's very successful in it. And I created it, became very successful in it. I had no interest. I didn't have any interest with this business whatsoever. I got out of it, thank God. But I did that for my brother. And then I set up another business, and I think that was my sister. And there were different businesses that were coming in, different interests. And it was interesting. Always growing up, I always had different friends. I had like the nerds, then I had the wild ones, the rebels. Then I had this, different, they were all different and they didn't match. I could never bring my friends together. It was like complete polar opposites. And this was playing out my life and also in every aspect. It was almost like I remember my art teacher saying to me, he says, Damien, he says, I received I want to bring you aware of something. He says, I want to just show, he says, I want to show you something. And he put my essays from the last few weeks on the table beside me. He says, see, your handwriting is changing all the time. And he says, it's like there's somebody in you. It's like, I don't know, it's like the split personalities in you. He was the first one to relate it back to me. I was like, yeah, actually, 1 minute the handwriting's really neat. One, it's sloppy. One, it's terrible. It's different. It kept changing. So he was the first one to see there was something within me. And also, there was an aspect of me, like what you're saying, Manuel, there was like an aspect of me that had a nastiness in me. And I was like, but that's not me. That's not me. Why would I do something like that? That's not me. I'm not like that. And there was different aspects coming alive in me that was saying, that is not me. And I was really, so I was like, when I start doing this work, I was like, I need to work with my devil inside and my destructive part and my destruction. I have this like very low self-confidence and demolishing part of my system, because every time I create something, before I create it, I'm demolishing it. As I have to work on this. So I was working on these, but they wouldn't resolve. And they start resolving when I realized it was my brother and sister in the system, especially my sister. She's older. And okay, so I'll start bringing the information in which I've been getting recently, and I think it's helpful for everybody. So what I realized was my older sister felt responsible because I'm her younger brother, and I have a younger brother again. So it's almost like you tell your mother, and my mom says, go to the shops. Now you're the eldest, you take care of Damien and the little brother. Okay? And here's the money, and you make sure you do it right and make sure they're okay and they're safe. Okay? So I realized that my sister, unknown to her, unknown to me, felt responsible for me. And it's almost like somebody over me, don't fall, don't fall, don't fall, don't fall. You're going to fall off the bike, don't fall. And my system, of course, falls. So she was smothering me out of her fear and her role of the elder sister of feeling responsible. Okay. So she was the most controlling, and she cellularly was in the back of the brain. So she could really take over my system. And also she was in the groin area and different parts of the body. So I realized through years of working with people, and I think thousands of people at this stage with twins, was that when it's very early stages in the womb, you're developing and your twins are developing, but then they get sick, so you jump to their system to save them into their genetic place. And then you're developing your spine with their spine. So a lot of people with twins have sciatica. I had sciatica. I've cleared it now, but I had sciatica, very strong sciatica in my system. My spine was curved. And and then the cells are alive within the system. Okay. So it's like I used to work with transition. It's like when people, if I'm working with someone who's meant to pass at a specific moment, but there's somebody in the family holding them from making transition. I used to go to the family and I'd feel, oh, it's the daughter. And I'd say to the daughter, do you realize you're holding your mom? And she'd say, oh my God, you're right. I know I'm holding my mom. I don't want her to pass. So I says, well, that's keeping her here and she's in a lot of pain. You need to resolve this in you. And then sure enough, a few days later, she would do it and the mother would pass. So it's the same thing. With the older one, they hang on because they have a job to do and nobody gave them permission to leave.
Mhm.
Okay. The younger one is interesting. The younger one always comes in very passive. Okay. Now the younger one is the opposite. It's you that doesn't let the younger one go because you're taking care of the younger one. So it's the opposite. It's about us letting the younger one go. All right. So there's that aspect. And then it's interesting. I checked too. I also work with the tribes in Kenya as well, the elders there. And I'm always like, I always get them to check my system. Anything comes up, I'm onto the tribe. I says, okay, look at my system, because they have really wisdom from creation. It's very pure. So it's interesting. They were saying, well, Damien, this doesn't happen in our tribe. What are you talking about? This is unheard of. What you're telling me now. And I was like, why? What do you mean? He says, well, the midwife will check before the pregnancy. Is there any twins and resolve it before the birth? It's different. They're incredible. They're incredibly more advanced than us. So I was like telling them, say, well, now I'm working with a 50-year-old or 60-year-old twin that has a full personality and's been around the whole life, And they were like, whoa, that's different. You have a lot more work to do. So it's you have to understand that the cells, if the living cells are in you, which they are a lot of the time, especially if it's very early, if it's later in the womb, I find no, it's not like that because then the twin develops and then the twin dies, as a complete person, an individual person. But if it's early, it's more complicated. And that is the system that I've been discovering more and more recently is that because the living cells are within you, it's like an anchor for the soul to hang around. So my twins used to get Damien to black out, like take an extra bit of vodka or something. And then my friends would say, wow, you turned into somebody else last night. And I say, no, I don't remember anything at all. What did I do? And they tell me, I say, but I don't behave like that. What are you talking about? It's, no, you were incredible. You did this, you did that, you know. And I was like, but sorry, but that's not me. And they're saying, no, you did it. We've pictures. We can show you. We're doing this, you know. So I was like, so they would get me drunk to take over my system. So the more dissociated you are, you're like a puppet. And the puppet strings are where they are physically in the system. My sister was in the brain, different parts of my body. My brother was also in different organs. So this is like I was the puppet. They were pulling the strings. So I've worked with people even who are medicated because the twins got them on medication because it means that they're dissociated. I get them to take extra drink or take them drugs so they're out of it so the twins can take over the system, especially if they got the addiction around sex. So if they're in the genitals, okay, then they will take over the system because they've got access to the pleasures of I won't say making love, I'd say, sorry for saying this, but fucking, it's destruction. So it's separation because the aspects of the twins that hang around is not the oversoul part, the soul part. It's the humanly part, the wounded parts. So you'll find in your system there's a high level of consciousness. I don't know, sorry, I have to stop this. So it's a high level of consciousness, and there's also an aspect where uh, the wounded part is in, like the ego, addictions are very strong, bullying is very strong, aggression is very strong, guilt, shame, putting oneself down. So I, the tribes described it very powerfully to me there during the week. They were saying to me, says, well, you were born in one womb, which represents the world. I knew this part, and I knew those two dead Swiss systems. But it's interesting, really, this is really true, I feel. So if you're born in one womb, it means you're born with two beside you, but those two are dead. So that's two against one living system. Also, if there's two, it means that in the womb you were thrown around from side to side. Okay, so it means that in life you're going to be thrown around and get hits from side to side. And that actually happened in my life a lot. I had a lot of accidents, thrown around side to side. Even my camera's doing it now. So it's like the system was thrown from side to side. So this was the information in the womb. So, and someone has control over you because if you don't clear it, you're living within a dead field, a dead system. So in the spiritual community, I'll say a lot of, like, I believe nearly all healers, I'm sorry to probably piss everybody off, but I would go to the level of saying 99% of the healers I've ever known, they all have missing twins, and that's the reason they're working and they're doing this type of work, because they're actually trying to resolve the first failure in their system, which is the first, which they didn't fail, but the system makes them feel guilty that they failed their first healing, and that's when the twins died. And they're healing from they're working from this field, which then brings up spiritual ego and also brings in the Jesus story, sacrificial on the cross.
Mm.
Okay, so this story of Jesus on the cross suffering and I must absorb all your pain matches perfectly for me with the twin wound, a wounded twin, because the twin, you absorbed your brother or sister. So it's that I must absorb your sins. It's the Jesus story. Okay. And it's interesting that comes up because even in the school that I had created, they were projecting onto the system, onto me, that I was Jesus because I was bringing in Christ consciousness frequency. And then people thought I was the man on the cross. Okay. And then they all became the disciples because it was the Jesus story, because it was the twins. It's easier to catch on to a Jesus story than it is to admit I'm a twin. Okay. I never have had so much resistance to go into sessions when I work with twins because I know I didn't know at the time, but my twins plus their twins would be against me doing the session. Okay. So it's, if you're in a relationship with twins and there's two twins either side, you have four twins against the living relationship, four against two. Okay? So they're very destructive in the relationship and they team up together. So if you're in a business and there's probably 10 people in the room and those 10 have two twins, now there's 20 twins against the 10, against the project. So the project then will be destroyed and demolished. And then it's all or nothing. There's only two cards on the table. One's alive, one's dead. And that's a very strong pattern in the system that one's up, one's down. So if you twin in a relationship, you'll say, "Oh, I want to go on holidays." And then your partner say, "No, I'm not in the mood." Then your partner's in the mood. "I want to go on holidays." "No, not now." So it's like you have to play one or the other. That it's always, and then if you're in business with somebody, which is the worst thing to do, I've been in different business things as well, where I was left with zero, you know. So it's like all or nothing. So you'll have money blocks, which most people in the spiritual scene do have major money blocks. Okay. It's because they're in deadness, they're in a dead system. So this is the fields that we need to be more aware of. Also, what I've been working on, I'm going to do it in the webinar over the weekend, is that I realized that we must, if you imagine that you're in a dead system, like dead cells, you need to accept where they are in your body. And also I say never rush it. I give the instructions in the webinars, what you have done is like get to know your twins, get to know their traits because you thought that was you. And when you bring the subconscious to the conscious, that's when you start separating from the traits and you start realizing that they're totally different than you. And your identity was lost because you've absorbed them. So you're also absorbing the world's identities. You're easily influenced. You're easy if you stand beside someone who's got a very strong lifeline, like I want to do this in my life, you will sit them and you'll feel like, wow, that's my destiny. That's what I'm going to do as well. But it's not really what you want to do, and you will never be satisfied by taking on someone else's destiny. So you're very impressionable. So there's many gifts in this, like enormous amount of gifts, but also there's many obstacles in the way to be transformed in the system because it's a very, very confusing field. And you'll notice that you'll get no results in your life, Jimmy, unless you clear your twins. Like since I start working with my twins, my life changed, my health changed, everything changed in my life. And the same with the people I work with. I can see results. If I'm not seeing results in the work, I'm not interested. The system needs to see results in every part of life, and it should be grounded results. And the more you embody, the more results you're going to embody because it's more of you. We are the law of, it's vibration. You become the vibration, So your system is giving out the information from what is in. So then also recently, a couple of months ago, I was like going into the new year. This year, the year of the horse is very strong. It's about leadership. Okay. So going into it, I was like, Spirit, there's something, I feel the potential in me, but I'm not seeing it in the outer world. I know the level of work I'm doing. I know the potential, but there's something in the way. Okay. Because there was something in the way. Okay. And I hadn't gone deep enough to clear the absorption from my system, which happened throughout my life. Okay. And that was in the way of my results. So as soon as I cleared that, inner outer world matched about results too. The work changed and developed to another level. But I always felt that there's something, nobody's seen the true level of my work. And I knew it wasn't my ego. I knew it was the truth. The vibration within my system was not mirroring in the results of the people I was working with, or it just wasn't showing inner and outer world. There was something off, I felt. So then when I cleared those systems, what was between the systems, then the inner world matched the outer world. And it's a complete shift, a complete change in the system. So I would invite anyone, if you feel you have a twin, take your time, get to know them, be a detective, as Lucas was saying, be a detective, ask the questions like only they're they're like humans, it's like anyone. How would you feel if you were never asked, do you want to eat something? Do you want to go on holidays? Do you want to meet your parents? Always my birthdays were a disaster. And I realized why, because I wasn't celebrating my sister and brother's birthday. I always felt guilty when the cake arrived. It was like, so it's like, they only want attention and love and space, and I'll introduce them to your living siblings. get to know them, get to know where they were in your life, and it's get to know them. Then the first homework would be get to know them, get to know their traits, go for a walk, call them up in the system because they'll tell you everything. First thing you write down will be the sister or the brother, okay? And when you get to know them, then go to the next twin and then ask them where are you in the body. It'll show up, okay? And now reflect on your life. Where were you in my life? And it will show up, those patterns will show up. It's like you get this aha because your system energy goes where to the origin always. And often I worked on topics and they couldn't resolve in my system. My system was confused, but as soon as I went, aha, I knew it was my brother. Aha, I know that was my sister. The system resolves by itself. And then introduce them to the living siblings individually because you need to state in the system, I am a whole living system and they're a dead system, but they get the brothers and sisters and put the living people involved and introduce them to them energetically. Okay. And then invite all the ancestors to also invite them into the system. They only want to be acknowledged in the system. Okay. And most of them has made transition already. And then we work through, I'll work it in the webinar to help them to resolve and then to go through to the other side in a very detailed way. So it's really important to honor them, honor their differences, and not forget them, to name them, give them space, and let them connect directly with other living siblings, godmother, godfather, mother, father, daughter, whoever's in the system, your children, introduce them to the system and almost like have a party for them and say, okay, do you want to meet all the aunts and uncles now? And then you do the same with the ones who've passed and say, ancestors, listen, I have a brother or I have a sister. Come on, meet them directly. You meet them, not without me. Meet them, introduce them that way and give them their time and space to connect to the family system. And you will feel such a relief and they will want to move on and they will leave you alone. And then you can live your own life. And it's about then living your dreams as a full system, not two against one, as your destiny. And then you can clear all the patterns from the system and live a full life system because it's about living a full life system. This year, you can have everything, so it's about your destiny this year, not without anything in the way. And that's why all the shadow stuff is coming up in the system. Does anyone to share anything coming up?
So maybe the one thing that was just popping up when you said all of these things is the more you work on the twin stuff, you also understand the world much better, so inner world and outer world. I mean, it's interesting. I saw recently a YouTube video where all the old like hieroglyphs and the different letters where has been translated or the ones that could translate it, and they always say the same thing, They always focus actually more on the inner world than the outer world. And it's interesting because sometimes you just don't understand why something's going on. Why is everything so confusing? Why is there, I don't know, such destruction in the system, such, I don't know, and it all makes it's interesting. It's almost like I don't know, when you work on trauma or you kind of, you have, for example, you had a car accident and then you spot someone and you immediately know, oh, he probably had a car accident too, because I can see, I don't know, his shoulder is a little bit back and his spine is maybe tangled, and you kind of get the vibe, okay, he may be having the same trauma. And so the biggest gifts that maybe I want to share is because the twins, they want to take you out of your body. For me, that was always because I was always going through life like sober. Even I stopped drinking in Germany. You can start drinking at like 16, and I stopped at 17 basically. And I immediately knew, okay. And I also realized my friends were acting differently when they were drunk and stuff. And I was like, okay, I don't feel what was going on there and stuff. So that was actually a massive gift because it definitely helped me very like clean and healthy and stuff. And I'm very grateful for it. And yeah, there it's interesting. You basically discover yourself as a whole new person again, and all of the why, all the guilt, also rage against God or against why am I here? Why can't I create? It's almost like, I don't know, creating something without hands sometimes you feel, because it doesn't work. You don't get the proper sculpture you wanted to do, but you know how to do the sculpture, and it's always like this strange entanglement and stuff. And yeah, and you also feel for people, I don't know, just a lyric comes up to my head where someone was just like singing, okay, and you hear it all the time also in music when they bought a house, but they don't feel fulfilled, so they bought the house, but they live somewhere completely else. They don't even use it, but they have this extreme guilt, and they possess different things, but they feel so empty. And it's interesting, once you kind of clear that trauma, you understand people like much more, even very successful people who never get satisfied, and it makes sense. How are you going to get satisfied with this kind of system information? And yeah, and it makes you feel, it's just like, oh, okay, I understand why this is a thing in your system, or why this is playing out, or why there are these big topics, this intense grief, or even with art, sometimes you see an art piece and you're just like, whoa, this is some very, very heavy, deep stuff, and it's maybe about their relationship with their father, maybe a painting, and you're just like, wow, this feels such deeper, and you just kind of get a sense of everything, and yeah, it's beautiful. It's kind of you become more human in a way, you become more understanding, and you also become less judgmental. That's one thing I've learned recently, it's almost like, oh, okay, yeah, yeah, like I got it, I get why things are playing out. I get why certain things are happening, why people do very irrational things that you don't even think why are they doing it, or you would even judge for, and now you understand why they're doing it. Even very horrible things. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Thank you, Lucas. That's a very valid point. What I
Mm.
discovered was if there's one missing twin, it's heavy, but it's like you can it's easier, okay? But
Mhm.
if for people who have got more than one, it's devastating. Okay. So if you imagine you're with, two twins, for example, it can be even more. And then say, okay, I'm with my three twins in the world. It's going to start off. It's going to be fantastic. I'm with my two twins beside me. I feel so good, so complete. And then one dies. Okay. Oh, the two of us here are absolutely devastated. But I turn around, there's my brother here or my sister here. Okay. So I feel like, okay, at least there's one here left. I'm okay. And then poof, gone. I've just been betrayed. Okay. So I'm going to enter life not trusting humans or a relationship. I'm not going to be open. I'll be in the mind and the head about love and all the rest, but I'm not in my emotional body because my emotional body, my heart's shut down because my first experience with two humans, which are the closest ones, have betrayed me and abandoned me. So I don't trust humans. I trust my cat, my dog, a tree, a forest, but that's it. So a lot of people I've worked with who've missing twins to that level even have gone through life never having a relationship or else thinking I'm in a relationship, but it's not a relationship, it's the mind control. Another part which you brought up there, Lucas, is it really gives you, yeah, a lot of compassion, first of all. It opens up a huge amount of compassion and ability to understand what it's like to be in other people's shoes because energetically you are. So, what also brings up, especially if there's more than two twins, is that you get a God complex because you get disconnected from God and angry with God, but then you manipulate the system and manipulate yourself to think that you know better. Okay. So you are being born in a system which is like a war zone. Okay. So it means you're incredibly good with system work of multiple systems. So you can be amazing hedge fund person, you can be stockbroker, you can be amazing at setting up systems because you're a genius at systems because you've been in the womb with two other systems. There's three of you or four of you. So, but there's a problem. You have a God complex. So a lot of leaders, for example, and also it is an excel in the system that you know how to survive the womb and you've outdone two other people. So you're a great survivor. Push comes to the I remember a friend of mine said to me, he says, Damien, I feel if the plane's going down, you're going to be the first one off the plane. I was like, well, actually, it's true. It's like I feel that in my system. I will be the first one off the plane. I was like, I feel guilty telling you, but I feel terrible, but it's true. I was like, I don't know why it's true. So I was like, I don't know why it's true, but you're right, it's true. I was like, it's true, I feel it. But I hadn't realized that that was because I survived two in the womb. So my natural instincts for survival was incredible. So I can like read systems, tear apart systems, and bring them back together like on a genius level. Because and a twin survivor is on a genius level at reading systems, seeing different how you can integrate systems back and heal systems very fast. And that goes for business systems too. So it's like you can drop into a business, look at the system, see all the problems in the system and resolve them within seconds almost, like nobody else. Because you're the survivor and you're a genius at reading systems. So this is the gifts, the talents of the twin. But if you're doing it from a wound, then you are doing it against creation. Okay? So then you'll have a blind spot in your system to think that, well, actually, two died, one survived. So then it feels like I can select a certain number of people on the world who can get on the ark with me and we'll leave the rest behind. Natural survival of the fittest. And it's natural in the system. And to your system, it will be 100% right. These people are making the world toxic. We'll wipe them out, or we'll leave first. We'll go to another planet, or we'll go to an island, and they'll all die off. And that's for climate change. Fantastic. That's going to save the world. I'm doing a really good job, and it's for the higher purpose. It's the higher purpose. It's the best thing for God. And you'll believe it because that's the level of ruthlessness, but that's the level in this. That's the information in the system. Inner world, outer world. The world became toxic. Yes, it's true. Your two twins polluted your world. The womb is the world. So yes, those two polluted the world and they're lower vibration and lower conscious than you. So then you'll have a sense that, well, I can pick the geniuses in the world and then we can eliminate the rest and it's okay. See the way the villain is created, like the Bond movie, or the movies. Why the movies create certain movies where the villain says, "Oh, I'll wipe out that population, and then I'll have my own perfect world." Do you understand? So how this can play out in a system, it can play out in politics. It will play out in medicine, and it will play out in religion. It will play out in a lot of different things, and that's the once in systems, and this is where I learned from system work uh, years ago, is that the minute you think you are more than anyone else or superior than anyone else, you've disconnected from creation. The minute you think it. And that's the problem with a twin survivor, because now you're in the brain, you're in the mind.
Mhm.
And a twin survivor of four, usually, or three, or two, knows it all. I know better than anybody else. I know it all. Okay. I know better. So I'll listen to you, but I know better. I'll let you think you're getting away with it, but I actually know better. And I'm manipulating you to think that you know better, but you don't, because I know the way and I'll direct you on that path. So as this feeling of higher consciousness, and that can be a trap in the system. For example, you could become very religious. I know better. You know, you could join Osho or whatever. I know better. You can join a spiritual community. Even in light grids, we know better. Do you mean? I remember when I was teaching the work, even I could feel it like I'm creating monsters. They all know better. And they're totally disconnected from God. It's like, this isn't working here. What's going on? So it's like, it's so easy to slip into this information of collecting information, and I know better, and I know how to save the world, and I know better than anybody else. And the minute you do that, you're disconnected from God. I've seen it in very strong religious people, religious teachers. I've seen it in science. I've seen it in the medical community. I've seen it in the pharmaceutical business. I've seen it in the political system. I've seen it with many leaders where they know better, but The only thing is it's a disconnection and a fear of connection to themselves of what is actually in their own blood and in their own system. Because if you've a missing twin, there's no space to connect to God, to oneself, because space is terror, because you'll have to look at yourself. So then you fill yourself up preoccupying yourself with survival or creating a new amazing life or a new amazing world, but you're giving no space and you're reading all the literature, but it's not in your system. Do you mean? So you need space and you need to realize that space is healthy and space is needed to connect to oneself. In the twin system, I don't want space. I have to rush, I have to run because the two twins will stop me, or else the space will allow me to feel what's in my system, the trauma I don't want to face.
Mm.
So then there's like I can have an addiction. It could be a spiritual addiction. I'm reading books, spiritual books, spiritual books, spiritual books, absorption, absorption. I'm working myself. I'm convincing myself I'm working myself. I remember a friend caught me out years ago on that one when I was starting this work. It's like, oh, you think you had a good session? You just manipulated that person to think they gave you a good session, and you manipulated yourself to think you got the healing result. That's just the mind. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. So the systems are extremely manipulating. And you can understand if you look in the inner world how manipulating we are, if we've twins, and how controlling we are. And then you can see it in the world stage. And you will see it with compassion because you realize that everybody thinks they're doing a good job. Look at I know this work and it took me 2 years to find a sister. That's how manipulating the system was. Okay.
Hmm.
The twin system is not an easy system to enter, and it's the most rewarding. And you'll definitely get results in your life, and you will change your life and your finances and your relationships and everything. But the resistance, because the first wound is devastation and ripped from a twin, and they never even asked us, and they never told us they were leaving us. It's huge abandonment and shame and resentment and anger towards God in the system. So I understand why people are so controlling and so manipulating and so believing that they're doing the right thing by certain projects which are nothing to do with creation and creating disease on the planet or separation or controlling the weather. I understand them. I have a lot of compassion because it's coming from a twin wound, nothing more, nothing less. For me, a lot of the issues on the planet at the moment is the separation from the twins. And that's what's creating destruction on this planet at the moment, I feel. For me, that's the collective theme at the moment. And you may not have a twin, but maybe your mom has a twin and you've absorbed that into your system or your grandparents, and that's enough to bring it into the system.
What I just realized when you were talking is also what is a very tricky part is that it's not one person against the others. It's they are with a twin wound, you suck in other people. And first, for the other people, it feels really good because you put them on a twin place. So there's meaning, there's like belonging. And then, and then the system just like goes into toxicity and so on. So afterwards, people realize, but in this moment, and this is we against the others, and that's, I think it's one part that makes it so difficult.
Yeah, yeah.
Like most people, I think, like the twin place for a little moment.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's very intense, very rewarding. Like every time, as you said, Lucas, twin soul, that's my twin soul. He's amazing, she's amazing. I look and say, oh my God, I can see where this one's going. It's like because the system's going to reject the person or abandon the person or destroy the person even at some later stage because it's simply they're feeling the twin and now they're the most dangerous person and then they'll be rageful, destructive, rageful, to the system. And if you're not aware of a twin, it's very destructive. It's very hurtful because the twin can rip you apart from inside because your twin was the closest person to you. So if you're twinning with someone, that person is extremely dangerous to twin with because that person can get right into your core and tear you apart, demolish you. That's how dangerous they are. So I don't want to twin with anybody, only my twins. It's like immediately, like I have a daily mantra in my system, like immediately with everyone I meet, I'm not your twin, I'm not your twin, I'm not your twin, I'm not going to twin with you, I'm not going to twin. Like that's like, and any topic that comes up in my system, the first response of my system is go, if there's any residue of twinning in my system that I haven't cleared, I will address that first, and then I'll look at the rest of the systems. Because I know I'm a twin survivor, and it's just something I was born with. It's something I'm going to die with as well. You know, I'm going to resolve it to many fields, but it's something that was so strong in my system. And I feel like, okay, I need to, every moment I look at every topic, there's going to be a little residue of that in the system. So it's the first thing I go to. And it helps me so much to know that and preserves a lot of my energy and time because it's so fast to do it once you bring it that way. It's okay, is there any residue twinning? Oh, yes, a little bit. Bum, 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 done. And then I can look at the topic and open the systems up and have a look at the systems. So it's a huge gift. And really, really, I feel if we resolve the twin topic on a collective level, we will be living in a completely different world. I really believe
Yeah.
we can have heaven on earth. And I feel this is the right year to do it. And I feel this is why the twin topic is ready to be resolved.
Mm.
And the results I've been getting is like the strongest I've ever experienced, that it's resolved in the system. And that's what I'm going to bring in over the weekend. This is the time we can resolve the system completely.
Yeah.
And that's why so many people are coming into the system to resolve this because it is the time. You can't be a leader this year, you know, unless you've resolved your twin system because you're going to be leading somebody else's system
Mm.
and you'd be corrupted in the system.
Yeah.
Manuela,
And
you want to share?
yes, I think what I want to say that it's very fast to clear this sometimes, yes. And often I feel for my own, I think this is an old life, this is the part of my inner child, and so on. And then when I feel I'm very confused, maybe I call Cecile and I say, can you hold the space for me? And the twinning part is very often, I think it's every time, not the part which I feel. Yes. And
Yeah.
this is so good when I have a person, maybe, or we worked a lot of this, uh, and I can say, can you hold the space for me for this? And then everything changes. And I think this we are invited to go in contact with other people that we can heal this part.
Mm,
Yes, because I think the wounded child we can work very good for your own, for our own, or other things. Yes, but the twin topics are often so confusing that it's so helpful and wonderful that someone else put the space, and so we can understand what is happening in our system.
yeah. I always have like I've had for all since I started this work, I always have a team looking at my system continuously, exactly for that point. You know, I will, you know, the last, yeah, since before Christmas, I've been really going very deeply, precisely into my system. And I would give the team that I work with, you know, a list of what I see in my system and say, listen, this is what I can see. Please, with your different gifts, look at my system and tell me what you see or work with my system because they exactly that. The twin is it's such a deep trauma that our system's protecting not to go near it, that we convince ourselves, or the twin convinces ourselves that we've cleared it. You know, so it's really healthy, yeah, to have someone who's done or knows the twins work to look at it from a twins way. Because I've worked with so many incredible teachers who teach so many different ways and techniques of clearing childhood trauma, you know, inner child work and all the rest. And they're missing this piece of the puzzle. And that sabotages their entire life work. You know, they can be stripped of their whole life's work because you cannot have victory from a twin system unless you've resolved it. You know, victory is you know, when you start life off, um, you as an autonomous system, you everything you do in life is creating a new foundation And then you're building your foundation, building the foundation, building the foundation. Okay. That's a normal system, autonomous system. But if you're in a twin system, it's on a whim, it can go. So you can be doing amazing work, amazing career. You can like work with, you can be the best in the world. And then one day you lose everything overnight and you've nothing left. That's a twin wound. And if you live from that space, your nervous system, you will not be able to sleep. Your nervous system be on high alert and you won't trust anybody. But if you think about it, for example, if you win, I don't know, the Olympics is on, if you win gold in the Olympics, okay, even if you don't perform well in one day, you say, well, she's the one who got the gold. Do you know that? You know, she's the one who got the gold, and that will stay with her for the rest of life. You know, she got the gold. Yeah, she missed the race today, but she's the one who got the gold last year. So that stays in the system. So victory is everything which you do as an autonomous person is victory, and it builds your system up, and it builds a foundation up that, you know, okay, something happened today. I'll deal with it. I still have my foundation. Also, you can have a house. A lot of people who have twins don't have their own house because they're not in their own house.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that happens so much. You know, they don't have a house or the sale falls through or something, or they can't get the loan because they're not in their own house. And the minute they get a house, they get their, you know, their own into their own system, they get a house manifestation. So it's about creating embodiment. For me, it's always about spirit told me embodiment, 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 embodiment. So how can you embody into somebody else's system? You can't. So you will not get results
Yeah.
unless you embody. You cannot relive your destiny unless you embody. You'd be living somebody else's destiny, and your destiny would be lifted off in a different direction, unfortunately. And that's the way it goes with twinning. So I'd say
Mm.
to anyone, if you feel like you might have a twin, and most people, I say I've worked with people for years and it never comes at I don't have a twin. Forget about Damien. I hate your twin work, but I'm happy to tell you I don't have a twin. So just work at me in a different way, you know? So it's like, and then they come back and say, I'm really sorry I found a twin, you know? So the system is so guarded. As I say, I couldn't find my sister, even though I'm doing this work for 2 years and I'm working with it every day, you know. Still, that's how manipulating the system is. So there's a lot of deflection, and the twins also play as like puppets that we don't find them because they maybe have addictions. They like sex, they like drink, they like relationships, whatever it is, or material things. So there's something in the system that they're attached to humanly because they have access to the physical cells. That's the danger of it. That's the issue. Well, thank you, everyone. We went way over time that we said. And that's another thing. In twins, you lose time and space. If you twin with someone, you feel like I lost time and space. It's amazing being with you, but it's like, wow, the day flew by and I didn't even realize it because you're in the womb in a different time and space to everybody else. That's the twin system. Also, sorry, another key as well that if you're twinning in a relationship, you'll feel like, well, I feel this about him, so I'm going to break up. Did you ask him? No, 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 I feel it. I feel it. I'm going to break up with him. I feel he's not right for me. He's not on the right path for me. You know, he's not doing the same spiritual work as me. I'm like, what? He's not meant to. He's a different person. What are you talking about? You know, so it's like, or have you asked him? No, 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 I feel it. The minute you feel like you're going only on feelings, you're twinning because the twin has not got a developed conversation, the ability to have conversation and ask questions. It's all on feelings. And once you into that state, you're twinning. So
Also
basically,
misunderstandings, yeah.
yeah. So it's like you can ask questions. Remind yourself you can ask your partner or your business partner or whoever it is, what's going on in your life? I feel this, but what's happening actually? You know, and let's have a discussion about it. And you don't have to like throw them out and throw everything out. You know, it's like talk about it, ask questions, you know, dialogue. So it's like you have to change these patterns in your system and these habits in your system. So make it conscious and keep asking questions and change. You need to talk and change your patterns and see your weak points and ask, keep asking, keep saying, I'm an adult. I can ask, this is how I feel about you, or I feel this from you. Is it true? Tell me about your feeling. What do you feel? What's going on in your life? What's going on in your system? Or why did you do that last night? You know, ask, because now you're going to the adult state. Thank you, everyone. Yeah. I say I'm doing a webinar over the weekend on this, and I have lots of webinars on the website on it. And there are different stages which came in over the years when I was working with my own twins, and there are different keys, very detailed keys. So yeah, if you first found a twin, I'd say go back probably to the first one and work through them. And then the one over the weekend is a complete completion stage. It's the completion stage. It's you going into a full autonomous system as an individual in a living system, not a dead system. So it's changing the whole system. So I'm very grateful that we got to this point, you know. So I feel this is really a closure and an opening of a new life system, which is represented in the world theme as well. This year, I'd say, is about leading from you as a creator and 100% in your free will. Thank you, Manuela. Thank you, Cecile and Lucas. Wow, thank you and your twins and my twins and all our experiences for, sharing these very intimate details because it's very intimate and yeah, a lot of resistance to share. But thank you. Yes, we're very open and sharing, and I feel this will help a lot of people to bring it to a conscious level. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.